I clicked the wrong button. Hello, room, all two of you. And how many are supposed to be in this class? $12. So we got 1/6 of the class here. 3. So we got 25% of the class here. Mr. Gutierrez, what do you like to be known as? You're muted.
Yeah, you can just call me Gus.
That makes me wonder how you got that nickname.
That's actually my middle name.
Oh, okay. That's
Yeah,
cool.
it's my middle name. I know my first name is weird. It's unique. So,
Yeah. Well, I asked you because I didn't want to butcher it.
oh, you're fine. You're fine.
I'm so white bread, it's painful. And my wife is half Hispanic, and her mother and her mother's family is just deep in the West Side, and so
Okay.
her grandfather used to own a surveying company called Cadena and Sons, and I don't know. The story is that he was the original surveyor for the Alamo Stadium. So,
Interesting. Yeah, I was actually born on Southwest 40th Street.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Her grandfather's family is from out past Helotes, out in the Gray Moss area, if you know where that is.
Yeah, yeah.
And they were living out there when the Battle of the Alamo happened.
Wow.
And her grandmother is a Gonzalez, and they've lived in Bexar County their whole lives. So, but if you look at my wife, you wouldn't know that she's half Hispanic. She took after her father, who was of I think of Germanic descent from Iowa. But I'm true to my last name. I'm from the English Isles. My dad's mother was a Keir, which is an English name, but most of her ancestors were Scottish. My mother's family was a Hooper, and my mother was, I think, a first-generation American through Canada. And her family came over to Canada. I think her grandparents came over from Canada. So,
Wow.
came over from England to Canada. So, but my mother's grandfather, my mother's father, was, his last name was Diarman, which evidently is a French name. So, French Canadian, moved to Michigan. My parents were from Michigan.
Okay.
I'm San Antonio, born and raised.
Yeah, if you think about the journey that your ancestors have come through, make you wonder. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, the white population is so proud of the Texas ancestry. Well, when you think about Texas ancestry, most of the white population either came from Tennessee or that part of the U.S., or they're immigrants from like my sister, one of my sister-in-laws, her last name was Plasek, comes from Poth, which is Czechoslovakian, Bohemia, that part of Eastern Europe.
Wow.
So we got a lot of German immigrants. That's, San Marcos and New Braunfels, and one of my pastors, I used to belong to Travis Park United Methodist Church downtown. One of the pastors there was Dr. Seiler, and he was from um, um, the hill country around New Braunfels, and his first language was German. So, I mean, he was born in the U.S., but his first language was German. So, people just don't realize how much Texas wasn't just from those few people who came from Tennessee.
Yeah. Yeah.
We lived in Weimar, Texas for a short period of time. And Weimar was settled by a bunch of English people who, the son of the person who settled the town said that that part of Texas reminded him of Weimar, Germany, and that's why they called it Weimar. Not a German soul among the bunch. They were all straight from England. So, and then that whole part of Texas has a lot of people from Germany and Czechoslovakia and Poland, and they have a fairly large Bohemian contingency out there, down around Poth and Floresville, down that way. Anyway, okay, we're getting more people in. How many people we got in here yet? Oh, we got everybody. Awesome. Damn it. Okay. Oh. Be right back. 1 second. Yeah. One of the biggest mistakes I made growing up. I live in South Texas, grew up in South Texas. And what foreign language do I take in high school? French. I'm not going to live anywhere else but Texas. Why did I take French? Anyway, stupid ass move on my part. Okay. Oh, I had everything set up. I need to re-find it. Okay. For these first 2 weeks, and possibly longer, depending upon how things go with the pandemic, there are a lot of stupid people out there. That's all I'm going to say about that. Towards the end of the second week, the powers that be will decide whether we're going to go back to the classroom or stay in Zoom for a little bit longer. Hope people smarten up and we're able to go back to the classroom, because that's where I prefer to be. I teach better in that situation than I do over Zoom. Or I can deal with it better. So what we're going to do now, here we go. And let me get my other window. I work off of two monitor screens. And so I have to set everything up once I set up the share window. For these next 2 weeks or possibly beyond, the first thing you need to do when you sign into class is to put your full name into chat, your first name and last name as it is in ACES. So Gus, you don't use Gus, you use that name I'm not going to try and pronounce, okay? All right. So go ahead and do that now while I'm yammering. Please be aware of the fact that I'm an old white guy. And if you have a name that's unusual to me and I mispronounce it, please forgive me and correct me, and I'll do my darndest not to mispronounce it. Yeah, I worked with a guy at Gary Pools. His name was Gooey. He'd write it down. People say, Guy? He goes, no, Gooey. Name was Guillermo. Anyway, Maria, didn't I have you in a class? Ms. Savetta?
No, sir.
Okay, well, your name looks familiar. That's why. I think I have another student with a similar first name. Actually, I think I have her again this semester. It's just, okay, in a different course. What I'm going to do right now is go through the, I'm not going to take a very detailed walk through the syllabus, but I'm going to hit the high points, parts that I think you need to know. And in the syllabus, it's not here right now, but I'm going to add the meeting times in place. So when we're no longer in whatever this is, I think we're going to be in San Jacinto, but I can't remember what classroom. Is it 111 or? Yeah, it's in 111, San Jacinto, if I remember correctly. And but I'll post that later. This is a little bit about me. I'm a Trinity grad. Yeah, every school I've ever gone to has been in San Antonio. I'm San Antonio born and raised. I grew up on the in the Northeast District, graduated from MacArthur back in '73. And I went to Trinity. It took me 4.5 semesters to graduate from Trinity. And yeah, that was in my early 20s when I had no business being in college. And I got a BA in geology because I was stupid and didn't study, and I flunked out a couple of math courses, and so I changed majors. And then I realized I really wanted to do what I wanted to do, and that was become a high school math teacher. So I went back to school at UTSA and picked up all my math hours there. And then after a number of years teaching, I started teaching down in Pearsall, and I taught in at Mark Twain in downtown San Antonio, which taught me a very valid lesson that I knew I wasn't supposed to teach middle school. And Mark Twain hit me in the face, said, yeah, you're not supposed to be here. And then I moved on to where did I go from there? I think I went to, is that when I went to East Central? Yeah, I went to East Central from there. And I realized I didn't need to be at a school that big or with the administration that was that controlling. And so I moved down to Poteet. I taught at Poteet for 8 years. I loved teaching at Poteet, but after 8 years, I decided it was time to move on. And I moved on from Poteet to Southside. Taught at Southside for 5 years in their academic credit recovery program. And I taught there for 5 years, which was 4 years too long. The first year went great. The second year, not so good. And the third year on, just it went down into toilet. Got into a controlling situation with the administration and decided we both decided that was not the place for me. And that's when I started teaching at SAC. And I taught at SAC. Oh, let me back up a second. While I was at Poteet was so good for me for a lot of reasons. One of which, it gave me the opportunity to get my master's at Incarnate Word through a great grant program, which paid for half of my courses there. And so I was able to get my master's at UIW. And then I taught at SAC for 8 years or 9 years. I think 9 years. And then as adjunct. And then Palo Alto, I had an opportunity to get a position as a full-time temp, which is an adjunct that works full-time by semester. So if they're able to give me a full-time load per semester, I stay as a full-time temp, and that works for 2 years, and then I have to sit out a semester and it can start over again. So thanks to COVID, I lost my full-time temp status in the spring last spring, because I had 5 classes, and because of low enrollment in 2 classes, and then 2 classes had to go to different full-time professors so they could have their 15 hours to maintain their full-time status. So I got dropped down to 1 class, so that, yeah, which was fine, but I lost my benefits. So anyway, this is my contact information. You can email me either through, I need to update this. You can email me through ACES. Emailing me through ACES it sends me an email to my phone, and so I know I get an email that I can go look at. Canvas, I check my Canvas mail every day, multiple times during the day, and that's because I do a lot of my work through Canvas. I will most often I will email people through Canvas. In MyLab, when there's one of the helps in MyLab is to ask my instructor, and it sends me an email with the problem and whatever problem you have that you're working on, and whatever you say about it. And but that goes to my ACES email, and then I respond through ACES to that email. So that's something to be aware of. So check both emails. Most often I will email you through Canvas, but if you do and ask the instructor, check your ACES email for responses. I have not, I've got my office hours, but I haven't set them up in here yet. I haven't stated them here yet. I can always set up a Zoom meeting. We can meet face to face if needed. Oh, well, the face to face can't happen until they let us back on campus. And yeah, okay. So the textbook we're using is this textbook by Michael Sullivan. and it's the 4th edition of college algebra. It's the same textbook they use with the courses that have the co-requisite. This course does not have a co-requisite with it. So you don't have to worry about that material. This just tells us a basic description of what this course will cover. And these are the outcomes expected from this course. These are also known as the student learning outcomes, SLOs. So if you hear me refer to SLOs, this is what I'm talking about. Or any professor talks about the SLOs, they're talking about the outcomes. And I think a lot of people here have already started completing the syllabus acknowledgement form. There are a number of ways you can respond to it. You can download it and then sign it and then upload it and email it to me. Or you can just write me an email stating what it says. So let me see. It's in files. So you go here and you just write an email stating that you certified you have received, read, and understood the course syllabus for this course. So you can copy and paste this and then just edit it saying I have received. And so from you down to the end, you just replace the you with I, just copy and paste that and state your name below and the date and send it on. So just in an email, all you need to do is respond in an email. Or and I've had a number of people do this. They download this, put their names here and the date, and then attach that as an attachment to an email. Whichever way works for you, it'll work for me, just as long as I get that. And you can get into I'm going to do that now, get into the book through over here. And it taken its dear sweet time. It's been doing that with me. And you have launch courseware down here. For those of you who are not already signed in, you just click down here. In the next screen, it takes you out of Canvas. And this is on the Pearson website now. And it'll be down, this is after you've already signed into the course. You will click down here and you set up your account if you don't already have one, and it'll ask you, do you have an account? So it'll sign you into it through that account. And you fill out the information that they require. They'll ask you for an email. You can use whatever email you want. You can use your ACES email or your personal email. It's entirely up to you. I don't put a restriction on it. It's whichever one you check most often, because I will send mass emails through MyLab. So notice people are having troubles with a particular assignment. So I'll select those people and send them all an email asking what's the deal, can I help, and that sort of stuff. So yeah. And then once you get into it, come on, here we go. It's dragging his heels. This is my view, instructor home. Your view will be like this. It will talk about past assignments, current assignments, completed assignments, and other things here. I would not worry so much about this. And to do your assignments, over here it says assignments, click that. It shows you all your assignments. All right. These first 4 assignments here are mainly just information that you read through. Please do those. It's a requirement. You don't get a grade for it, but it's something that helps you. Okay. I've had several people tell me how this particular one, how learning math is different, had helped them. More than one person, more than a dozen people have said that overcoming math and test anxiety has really helped them. So, oh, that's misspelled, anxiety, missing the TY there. Okay. And how to study for a math exam. Time management, most people could do with some more time management. I'm one of those people. And then here's all the homework assignments, all of them. Yeah, double check. It looks like I'm missing some, but no, I think they're all there. Okay. So, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to go back to here. And you just click in and it'll show here. And so this one has 14 questions and you go through and work through the questions. Each question you get a point. So this homework assignment is worth 14 points and they'll tell you the percentage that you got correct. Some of them have multiple parts that you have to answer, so you can get partial credit. Okay. And let me click into one. And you can't see it right now, right? So let me do this and do this. And so down here, ask my instructor, and then you got textbook here. I think there's some more things I need to add to the some more helps you can have. But I think some of the problems have more helps other than just textbook and okay, so this is a set of all images of the elements in the domain of a function is called and then it's a drop down window. And quit calling me. Go away, go away. Damn it. Here we go. So the set of all the images that are the elements in the domain of a function is called the range. And so final check and it says, yay, you did good. Okay. And so the textbook, it takes you to the section in the textbook this is being covered in. So you can read it to find it if you didn't have it down. This is a difference quotient. If you end up taking a calculus class, you will see this. And that's why we introduced it into pre-calculus, into college algebra, and I think we explore it in, no, we don't explore it in pre-calculus. We should, but we don't. And then there's ask the instructor. All right, so you can write down here what you are having problems with, why you are having problems with this. Please add the question number, because this is the information it gives me. It gives me the question, what section, what question in the textbook is it is, but it doesn't tell me what problem it is from MyLab. So it helps me in responding. It aids my response to be easier and quicker for you if you tell me what question number it is. Even though it gives me all this information, it just doesn't tell me which question number it is. And then you click send and it'll send me an email. So just a quickie there with that. Okay. And so that's what we have there. That now I want to go back to the syllabus. And if you have any questions about, once you start working in MyLab and you have questions, shoot me an email. We can do a quick Zoom about it and see what's going on, or bring it up in class and we'll deal with it in class. Okay. And where were we? Oh, here we are. Okay, so everybody should, well, not everybody signed in yet, but please, it's a simple process to sign in. There's several people who already have. So, and then complete at least two assignments by next Wednesday. I'm going to be a little lenient on this, but you need to at least have started 2 assignments, if not completed. Yeah, I don't think I should have used complete, but as long as you attempt 2 problems, 2 assignments, that'll be great. That'll just show me that you're serious about this. Grounds for withdrawal. You are responsible for doing the homework. I am not going to be hounding you and hunting you down to tell you need to get your homework done. I will, in class, I'll ask her any questions, and by the end of the class, I'll say, please be sure and do the homeworks in MyLab. Please be sure and be logging into MyLab. But that's the most I'll do, unless you're getting seriously behind, and then you'll start getting emails from me. I won't call you out in class. I think that's rude and destructive. So if you're 5 or more assignments behind, then that's leading to problems. Because if you're that far behind, that's your understanding is that far behind. So what we're doing in class, this is a class that builds on itself. So if you're 5 assignments behind, then that means you're behind by 5 sections. That means what we're doing now is 5 units ahead of where you're supposed to be, of where you're at, I should say. Okay. So we will have it. I will email you and we will have a discussion and to find out what's going on and what's keeping you from doing the homeworks. Attendance missing 4 or more classes is reason to drop you. But what I do is I shoot you off an email saying what's going on. You missed 2 weeks worth of class. And if you have good grades, I'll still send off an email saying what's the problem with getting to class. And then missing 2 or more exams is very difficult to get a passing grade if you've missed 2 exams. It's extremely difficult. These 3 things are not grade based. They're performance based. This is participation. So if you show a lack of participation in these 3 things or one of these 3 things, then I start asking questions and we talk about your role in the class. All right. How grades are calculated. Your exam averages were 65%. There are 3 exams during the course, plus the final. The final is worth 25s. The average of the 3 exams is 65%. And there's a caveat here. If you have a really low exam grade, provided your final is higher, it will replace your grade, the lowest test grade, up to an 80. So if you made a 90 on the final and your lowest test grade was a 65, then that 65 becomes an 80. Okay. And then, so that'll be used to be averaged into your 3 exam grades. If you made a 75 on the final and you made a 65 on your lowest test grade, then that 65 becomes a 75. So That's how that works. So you can miss an exam and your final exam will just replace it up to an 80. So that'll help. But because I'm doing this now, it's only up to an 80. Missing 2 exams, I don't see how you can make a passing grade. Because it'll be a 0, an 80, and whatever your 3rd exam grade was. And chances are it won't be a passing grade as an average. So that's really hard. Now, this 10% here.
So sorry to interrupt you, but someone asked a question in the chat on if they need to, what ID they need to put in for MyMathLab.
You shouldn't have to do that. You should be able to you just click on the launch and you go in to well, let me look into it, but you shouldn't have to have an ID to enroll in the course. They may want you to create. Do you have a MyLab account, a Pearson account through MyLab? Okay, that may be what they're asking for. Because either you've already been it, you've already have a Pearson account for MyLab, or you need to create an account for MyLab. All right. Okay. Now the homework completion at the end of the semester, it's a completion. Did you do, I think there's 17 assignments in there for MyLab. If you had gone and done work in all 17 assignments, then that completion rate is 100%. Okay. If you only did 95% of them, then in that one you didn't do, you didn't even attempt, then that's the percentage. So if you only did half of them, then that's 50%. Okay. You will get other work to do. All right. And the other work I will assign here, and you'll in files here, there'll be a bunch of things, bunch more folders in here for you to do work from. Excuse me. And what the, and and that'll be part of the 10%. And so you'll have several grades there that weigh equally. So it'll just be the average of all those things. So here's about the homework. You don't have to worry about making hundreds in the homework. What you have to worry about is doing the homework. Because the more you do the homework, the better your understanding and the better grades you'll make on the exams. Over the years, I've noticed a major trend. Well, I noticed it early on, but every year keeps confirming it. The people who go in and do work in the homeworks, they didn't have to finish the homeworks, but they went in there and they did the majority of the homeworks, did anywhere from 10 to 20 points better than people who didn't do any of the homeworks. And the more you work the homeworks, the more you complete the homeworks, the better your grade will possibly be with the assignments. I mean, with the exams. How I work the exams, I do a review. I do a review the class day before the final, before the exam. And it works for the final as well. If you don't see it in the homeworks, you won't see it on the review. And if you don't see it on the review, you won't see it on the exam. Is that making sense? So I'm narrowing down what you're going to get on the test. A lot of times the homework spreads things out. So what I do in one problem, they'll do in 4 or 5 problems. Or they'll have one problem that has 27, no, not that many. I think there's one problem in one class I had where one problem had A through M. So that was 13 parts to it. There's some things I do that way, but it's all interrelated, and it's some of the stuff is they divide out some of the minutia, and rather than putting it on all in one problem like I would, they put it in 3 or 4 problems. So that's one of the difference here between my lab and my exams. But you'll see more clearly about that once we get closer to the exams. Okay. So homework completion, and the grade scale is pretty much standard for Alamo colleges. And homework is assigned through my lab. Yeah, don't do it, Thomas. And students are responsible for keeping your work current. When I finish a section, consider it assigned. I almost never say that, okay, we finished this section, so consider this section assigned, let's move on. I usually don't refer to that. I just say, okay, here's a new section. And so once we move on to a new section, then the previous section is considered assigned. So it's up to you to keep up with it. I expect you to ask questions about the homeworks. Okay, if you're having any issues with the homeworks, please ask the instructor. Please bring it up in class. Okay. I didn't mention about the tutorial services. PAC has excellent tutorial services through the math lab in the Gutierrez building, and there's links for it. And there's also other BrainFuse, I think, is one of them. I think it's on here. Yeah, BrainFuse online tutoring. What is it? Khan Academy. I don't know if you've heard of Khan Academy. It's an excellent website, khanacademy.org. Let me type it into the chat. It is an excellent website, an excellent tutorial service. And in the mathematics, they have some interactive stuff that you can use for some of the sections. And so, yeah, I've had people use it and they've said it's been a lifesaver for them. I'm not so arrogant that I think I can explain anything to everybody. I know my way of explaining falls flat on some people. My personality and the way I deliver the material for some people is irritating, or they just can't get it from me. I have no problem with you having problems with me. I have problems and issues with you not seeking the help to help understand the material. Now, did I mention groups? Because I'll mention groups several times throughout the semester. Study groups are very important. Study groups can help you tremendously. While I was at UTSA, there was a group of us, there was a core group of about 6 people who took all the same math classes at the same time. We, if not the same sections, at least during the same semester. So we were covering the same material and a lot of times with the same professors, even if it was a different section. And we helped each other tremendously. There's some professors out there at UTSA that still remember this group, and this was back in 98 and 90 and into 91. That 2.5 years I spent at UTSA, one of the professors at SAC, she, Miss McKenna, she and I and there was another professor there, Miss Kinsey, and we went there together. And she says the same thing. I mentioned it to her, and she says, "Yeah, I tell them the same thing." Groups, a study group is a phenomenal thing, especially if you get one that really clicks. And so I made anywhere from 5 to 10 points better because of the study group I had. I went from a student who made A, B, C's, and D's to a student who made A's and B's and an occasional C. I made 3 C's the entire time I was at UTSA. And those 3 C, the courses I took that I made those 3 C's in, I did not have my group. So them explaining stuff to me and me explaining it back to them, or me explaining things to other people is I think I learned more by, well, I learned more by re-explaining it to someone else, or telling someone how I understood how they explained it. So I got a better understanding of what was going on. And that's the purpose of study groups, is you help each other to understand the material in a more deep way. So it really works out for you. I can't tell you how powerful it is to have a good study group, even if it's just one other person. Let me see, in spring of 2020, at the beginning of class, I had one student, well, no, it was fall of 2020. One student, while I was going through the first day of class, he had set up an Instagram group account and started recruiting people to join into it for study sessions. So when it came time to study for exams or even just do homework, they had that group that they could all go to. So they didn't have to be physically present. They could do it through that. Okay. So yeah, back to this. Students are expected to ask questions. The average of the homework will be used for makeup points on the exam, and I'll get more to that later. I do not use homework grades to calculating your final grade. I do use the completion rate. Completion rate is a misnomer. It's completion and or attempts. The percentage of the homework assignments completed, attempted. Okay, there I explained it. And homework is vital to understanding material and doing well on exams. Where you actually learn the material is not in the classroom. Where you actually learn the material is doing the homework, practicing it, doing the math. I don't know how many of you had a teacher in high school that had a big old banner across the front of the room saying mathematics is not a spectator sport. You can't learn math simply by sitting on the sidelines and watching it. You learn math by getting out there and doing it. And that's what the homework is. That's you going out and doing it. There are 3 exams and then the comprehensive final. These dates, I already have these dates. I just haven't put them in here yet. And I'll once I put them in there, I'll also put in an announcement up that said I've put in the assignment, the exam dates, and I'll also put them there in the announcement. The final exam, the final exam week is the second full week of May, the week beginning with May 8th. So the exam in here will either be on the 9th or the 10th of that week. And if the exam is on the 9th, you're done with the class. If the exam is on the 10th, you do not come to class on the 9th. You only come on the 11th. Or it'll be the 12th. I can't remember. Oh, 9th or 11th. Yeah. I might be wrong on those dates. Might be an old memory I'm working off of. Okay. In general, there will be no makeups for missing exams. So if you're going to miss exam and you know you're going to miss exam because the date is something you can't change or something's come up and you have to be gone that day or you can't come to campus that day, you email me. As soon as you know you're going to miss an exam, email me. And if you know about it way before, like now, once I put up the exam dates and you know now you can't make that day, you send me an email now, and then a week before the exam, you send me another email, and we'll be in conversation about setting up a time for you to take the exam, either prior to or soon after, as we can get it done. But if you miss any, if you can't get to campus that day, and that's you find out in the morning or whatever, something's happened that prevents you from getting to campus or to the exam, then as soon as you can email me. I had a student who was involved in a car wreck on the way to school, and she wasn't able to make it to school that day because of things that happened with the wreck. And she wasn't able to email me to the next day. That's fine, as long as I know what's going on and you keep me informed, then we can discuss things. Okay, so missing 2 or more exams is grounds for withdrawal. I've already gone over that. Average of the homework prior to exam will replace up to 15 points missed on the exam, up to an 80. So if you made under an 80, and you've kept up with your homeworks, or even if you haven't kept up with your homeworks, then whatever the average is on those homeworks, realizing if you don't attempt a homework assignment, then that's a 0. So a 5% is better than a 0%. So go in there and do the homeworks, even if it's just a couple of problems prior to the exam. And I take the average of those, and whatever the average is, I'm going to multiply that times the 15 points, and that's what I'm going to add to your grade. So if you got a 90 on the homeworks, so that's 90%. So I multiply the 15 by 0.9. So 15 times 0.9 is 13.5, which I would round up to an 8 to a 14. So I would add 14 points to your grade if your exam grade is under 80. I will add 14 points to it up to an 80. So So if you made a 70 on the exam and you get 14 points added, that adds up to an 84, but I will only record that as an 80. But if you made a 60, then I would add those 14 points in and make it an 74. Okay. So please be aware that it can seriously help your grade. So if you made a 55 on the exam and you made 100 on all the homeworks, which I don't see that happening. If you made 100 on all the exam, I mean, all the homeworks, then you should make at least an 80 on the exam. But that would bring it up to a 70, a passing grade. So, yeah, the homeworks, the only way the homeworks could hurt you is if you don't do them. Okay. Doing the homeworks and getting lousy grades on it isn't going to hurt you. What hurts you is not being serious about the homeworks and being diligent in your work in the process, because that's where you learn the material. All right. Here's the outline of the course. I'm not so sure about where test 1, test 2, and test 3 fall, but that's about where they'll fall. Actually, probably 2 and 4 will be up here, or 2 will be here, and usually 1 and 4.1 and 4.2 is usually on test 2, but these are all date driven, not material driven. So whatever we cover up to the first test date, that will be on the test. So I usually cover all of chapter 1 and then a little bit of chapter 2 for test 1, and then part of chapter 2 and all of what we cover in chapter 3 plus a section or 2 in chapter 4 will be on test 3. Usually test 2. Usually test 2 is all about graphing. Okay. And then test 3, the bulk of it will be about logarithms and exponentials, and with a little bit of this stuff on it with matrices. 6.1 we go over very quickly. It's basically a review of chapter 1 material from, material from algebra 1, solving systems of equations. And then matrices. This is a fun section. And it's fun for me, which means it'll be maybe not so much fun for y'all. Anyway, please take the time to look through all this stuff here, because this is on every single syllabus for every class in the Alamo College District. So just make sure you go through those and you understand. What you don't understand, I would take it up with your academic advisor. They're more in a position to be able to respond to the issues that you might have or questions you might have about this. They get some good information in here. Emergency phone numbers. This is for and PAC IT number. Yeah, this is a number you need to put in your phone, because if you have issues with Canvas, these are the people to call. Okay. So, or ACES, if you have trouble with ACES or with Canvas, these are the people to call, and if they can't fix it, they'll bump you up to the Alamo IT. So yeah, so you got all that stuff here. Any questions before I move on? I just did a huge info dump on you. And so it took up almost the entire hour, about 50 minutes. So. Okay. And we'll deal with other things as we go along. Grades here. Of course, you don't have anything in there yet, and I haven't set up the fields in here yet. And what you'll see in here is the three exams in the final, and the 10% category. There might be other things that show up in here, but all that's going to be used to calculate your grade is what's in the syllabus. Okay. So if it's not in one of these three categories, it won't show up. It might show up in there simply because I've created it as an assignment to give you information or to give you a thing, but yeah, that's it. And I'm working off the assumption that we'll be in class by the time we get to the first exam. That might work. If it doesn't, if we're not, then the first exam will be through Canvas. And over here where you see where it says quizzes, I will write the quizzes and put them in here, and they'll show up in assignments. Okay. All right. If you notice this, it's got the little eye with a line through it. That means you can't see it on your Canvas. So, okay. So I'm done with that now. Oh, that's why it's not showing up the way I want it to. Thought I'd already done this. Obviously not. Yeah, I'm setting up my screen. It is damn weird how this thing is going about doing stuff. But we'll see. Okay, now the next thing is to pull that up. Move it in closer. So you're going to see right now. Let me get the zoom back up. All right. I present the material through the PowerPoint and I explain what I can over here. Whoops, I gotta change it back to that. Let me do this because. All right, so chapter 1 deals with functions and their graphs. And it's just a general introduction to it. And so section 1 is functions. And so what we're going to talk about is and these are the objectives for this particular section. Determine whether a relation represents a function. We'll define what a relation is and then go into a definition of a function. We're going to talk about finding the value of a function. This is something you've done ever since you've been able to put numbers in mathematical statements. You can work a formula. Well, that's exactly what we're doing when we're finding the value of a function. We're putting a number in for the variable. And then find the difference quotient of a function. That's that formula, f of x plus h plus, no, not plus, minus f of x being divided by h, and then you simplify you expand what those mean, and then you simplify the expression, and that's what that's the difference quotient, is whatever that simplifies down to. We're going to find the difference. We're going to find the domain of a function defined by an equation. Okay. And this is the algebra of two functions. The sum of two functions. That means you're just adding them together, combining like terms. All right, difference. That means you're going to subtract one of them. So you're going to put that one you're subtracting inside parentheses, and then you're going to subtract it. So you're going to change the signs of the one you're subtracting, and then you combine like terms. The product means you're going to multiply. You're going to use the distributive property appropriately. And then the quotient of two functions is you're just going to write a fraction. Sometimes it'll reduce, sometimes it won't. Sometimes, most of the time, you just leave it as it is. You just write it as the function, as the quotient, and you're done. A quotient, a division is a fraction, and a fraction is division. A quotient means you're going to get a fraction. And sometimes the fraction reduces to a nice number or a nice expression that's no longer a fraction. Before I get along any further, I needed to explain to y'all about some of the weird noises coming out of my mouth. I'm sure y'all have noticed already that I whistle a lot. I whistle a lot because these teeth aren't the ones I was born with. Those I have in a little baggie here, okay? Because I had them, they yanked them all out of my mouth and put these implants in. And what I have now is the temporary replacements. And in the beginning of March, I get my permanent replacements. The temporary ones are not what's the word? They don't fit my mouth nicely. They're just temporary things to put in there, so temporarily keep me being able to eat and talk until they create the new ones which fit my mouth better. The problem here is it has a fake palate over here that interferes with my tongue forming words and sounds. So that's why when I have S's and not even with just S's, I whistle a lot. My wife teases me, says I'm making the dogs in the neighborhood howl. So yeah, such a loving wife. But anyway, I wouldn't trade her for anything in the world. Anyway, so if you can't understand a word I said, or my whistling kind of shot you out of the concentration for a little bit there, please let me know. Tell Mr. Reed, could you repeat that? And so I'll either repeat it or I'll write it down. So yeah. And if you haven't noticed, well, that little bit of handwriting you saw, I have horrible handwriting. Okay. It'll become very evident once we start getting into this stuff. And if you can't read something I've written down over here, please let me know. And I'll either rewrite it or I'll fix it or I'll restate it so it's legible or understandable. Okay. I don't have such a big ego that it's tied to my handwriting or how I talk or anything like that. Okay. So the first objective, determine whether a relation represents a function. First of all, we need to talk about what a relation is. When you boil it down, a relation is a set of ordered pairs. It associates a set of things with another set of things in an ordered manner. So you have the first item, which in this case would be the x's, corresponds to the second item, which we call the y's. So x and y are two elements, x, y. So you get an ordered pair, x, y. And there's a relationship between those two. The relationship may be that's how we paired them together. So you have a random pairing of people. You have the first person chosen, the second person chosen. And that's all the relationship is, right? You have married couples. Okay. And so you decide which one's the first and which one's the second. Okay. In this day and age, the husband-wife paradigm is no longer the one. Okay. So so if a relation exists between x and y, we say that x corresponds to y, or that y depends on x. So the y happens first, and this is one way we write it. X corresponds to y. This is called a mapping. So I could say this relation takes x to y. And a lot of times when we have the arrow there, I say x to y, or 5 to 7. 5 takes you to 7. So that's sometimes how this notation is referred to. Now this shows a set of ordered pairs. All right, Mississippi. All right, we're talking about the states. Each state has a certain number of representatives. So Mississippi has 4 representatives. Louisiana has 6. Alabama has 7. Georgia has 14. Florida has 27. This is a relation. There's a relationship between the state name and the number of state representatives. Okay. This is a relation. Yeah. Okay. So now they start talking about it that way. Okay. Now we can write them as ordered pairs, right? Mississippi, 4. Louisiana, 6. Alabama, 7. So that shows you the pairs. The domain is the first element of the ordered pair. Or if you, and yeah, this is called a mapping, because here's the first elements, here are the second elements, and the arrows tell you where it goes to. Hence, calling it a mapping. We map from here to here. We map from down here up to here. We map from here across to here. So that's pretty straightforward, telling you what the ordered pairs is, and that's how we built up these ordered pairs. The first element is the domain. The second element is the range. Now, How you list them in the domain and how you list them in the range do not have to correspond to each other. I could have listed the states by alphabetically. So I would have started with Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Louisiana, Mississippi. In the range, I could have listed the way they did chronologically, 4, 6, 7, 14, 27. Or I could have just mixed them all up. Here, what they did, they list the states here in the order they had them in the ordered pairs, and they list the number of representatives in the order they had them here as well. It just happened to be chronological. Okay. Now, this is a mapping. Just pretty much the same as this was a mapping. Here's my first element, my domain. Here's my second element, my range. So the domain takes us over into the range. So let X and Y be two non-empty sets. A function from X into Y, notice it says into and not onto, there's a distinction there, is a relation that associates with each element of X exactly one element of Y. That's the definition of a function. That's one definition of a function. I like my definition better because it's simpler. It doesn't use as many words and doesn't get all that highfalutin abstract stuff going. Okay, so a function is a relation. Okay, and realizing in this case, a relation is just a set of ordered pairs in which each, it's an H, not a K, Thomas. Each X value or each element of X is paired or associated, paired with exactly, this is an important word, this is an extremely important word. I say this all the time and people refuse to listen to me. This is an important word for the definition of a function. Exactly. Exactly one Y value. So X will only be paired with one number. It won't be paired with two different numbers. 3 will only be paired with 5. 3 won't be paired with any other number but 5. If 3 is the first number, 5 will only 5 will be the second number. If 3 shows up again in the X values, 5 will show up again as the Y value. So this shows an example where each of these X values only go to one Y value. Now, two X values over here go to one Y value on this side. That is okay. It's okay that this number and this number have the same Y value. What's important is that this X value only goes to one number over here, only to one element over here. And this X value only goes to one element over here. All right, and this one only goes to one element over here. Okay, so here I have one set, and I have a bunch of values over here for my x's, okay? And I have another set over here, and this is my y's, and only have one number over here. Every single one of these x's can go to that exact same y value, and this is still a function, because this point here only goes to one point over here. This point here only goes to one point over here. They all happen to go to the same point, but each one individually only goes to one point. It doesn't, there's not another point over here that this point goes to this one and to that one. So this right here, I made this is not a function, where the way I had done it originally, it was a function. Is that making sense? I think sometimes I over-explain and it confuses people. So if I take away that, say again?
I just had a question,
Yes.
just to make sure I got it correctly. So if there's two y points, only the x value can be paired with either one, but the y can't go.
But
to
not
two
both.
x's?
I'm sorry, I spoke over you. What was the last bit you said?
No, you're fine. So only one x value can go to one y value.
Correct.
Okay.
The y values can have multiple x's associated with it, but the x values can only have one y value associated with it. That's why we use the word exactly.
Okay.
You could use the word only as well. It means the same thing. It's just exactly seems to be more firm than only is.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now I get into my rant about the English language. We use an imprecise language to describe things precisely. Okay. And it's very difficult with English because of this simple fact that words in English can have more than one meaning, and it befuddles things. And that's why, like in lawyerese, they use these words that are very confusing and convoluted to make something very precise in their definition, because there's so much ambiguity in the English language. And that's why we have these definitions that are stated in a certain way, so there's no ambiguity here. So if I have 3 paired with 5, 3 will not be paired with any other number. The 5 can be, but the 3, I mean, the 5 can be a y value in any other pair. But when 3 is in the x position, I can only have a 5 with it in the y position. And this last paragraph here just talks about x and y being real numbers. And so if they're real numbers, if x and y are real numbers, then it's a real function. And if the two sets are in the complex numbers, then we have a complex function. We don't do much with complex functions in this course, so there's no worry there. We touch a little bit on complex numbers, but not a whole lot. And I'm not too sure if we touch on it at all in this course. Broad definition, x and y can be any two sets, so it doesn't have to be numbers. It could be people and dogs, or people and people, or houses and helicopters. I don't know. I'm just throwing out things. So here, the relation is, what's the domain? What's the range? Is it a function? I always look to say, is it a function first? I always answer that first because that's easy. So if it's set up as a mapping like this, it's quite easy to tell if it's a function or not. How many arrows does Mazapply have coming from it? Does Mazapply have one arrow or two arrows coming from it?
Pardon, sir, I think we're out of time.
Oh, we're out of time. You're right. We're 5 minutes past, and I don't know if I mentioned it. So we're at slide, I think I did. I tend to just ramble on, and I don't always pay attention to the time. So we'll pick up with this slide next time, and we'll answer my question then. If you have any questions for me, go ahead and hang around and ask them. Otherwise, you're free to leave unless you want to hear what other questions other people might have. So if you don't have any questions or comments to make, I'll see you all on Thursday.
Bye, Mr. Reed.
All right. Bye-bye. We'll see you later, Gus.
Have a good night. Be safe.
Oh, yeah. Come back in one piece.
I will.
I tell that to my son. My oldest. He's a mechanic, and yeah, he almost took off his hand one time. So, well, a machine almost took off his hand. It messed up his thumb, something fierce. So he almost lost his thumb.
Oh, wow.
But, yeah. So I tell him to come back in one piece. Stay in one piece.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
actually have a question if it's not too late.
Say again?
I actually have a question if it's not too late.
No, ask away.
So to simplify it even more than it already kind of is it okay to think of it in terms of like a grid line? Like how you said earlier, and correct me if I'm wrong, that there can be more than one X onto a Y?
Yes.
Or yes. But like thinking of it as in a grid line, is it like safe to compare it to a grid line?
Well,
Or is that,
yeah. If you have a horizontal grid line,
Mhm.
let me pull that up.
Okay.
Hang on 1 second.
Yes, sir. I was just a bit confused on that end because
All right. So here I have X, Y, right? I
Yes,
have
sir.
X and Y. And I have this line up here.
Mhm.
This line is Y equals 2.
Okay.
What X values will give me 2? What numbers can I associate X with 2?
Oh,
Well, that's
multiple.
all of them. See, all of
Yeah.
these will give, so 1 gives me 2, 3 gives me 2,
Okay.
4.79 gives me 2.
Yes, sir.
So
I see.
it's a function. Now,
Yeah.
3 will only be paired with 2. It just so happens every other real number will be paired with 2. But 3 only goes to 2.
Yes, sir.
1 only goes to 2.
I understand. So in terms of not like a single.
Now, if we have this line, which is the identity line, right? Y equals X. That means 1 is paired with 1, 0 is paired with 0, 3 is paired with 3, 275 is paired with 275.
Mhm.
Right? These X values are only paired with their Y value. 3 is only paired with 3, 0 is only paired with 0. So this also is a function.
Okay. I was thinking I got confused on that, and I was thinking like in terms of not a line or like a line segment. I was thinking of it like a just a single point, because if it was just a single point, then it would only be.
Well, if you have a single point, yeah, that's still a function.
Yes. Yeah.
Because now I have -3 paired with +1.
But those are the only two. Those are the only, well, obviously those are the only two numbers that can.
It's still a function.
Yeah. No, I wasn't arguing that. I was just arguing Whether.
But if you have this situation, we're talking about this line
Yes, sir.
where X equals -3. Well,
Mhm.
that means -3 can be paired with 1. That means -3 can be paired with 0. Whoops,
Hmm.
put the 0 inside. -3 can be paired with a -27.
Hmm.
So -3 can be paired with more than just one other number.
Yep. Yes, sir. I understand. Well,
Okay.
now. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Sure.
You have a good day, sir.
You too. All right. Jorge, George.
Yeah, hi. I just didn't want to interrupt. So I had a question from the beginning. I didn't want to ask though, because I knew you were like into the class. How would I send you the acknowledgement form for the beginning? Like I guess the first thing we sent you. I wasn't too sure how to send you that.
What is it? The syllabus acknowledgement form.
There you go, that one.
Yeah. You
Because I'm not
So-
too sure about the whole computer thing because like I'm new to it, so I don't even know.
No, what you do, can you, so you can copy, let me get it down there. Do this and copy it. So that would be Control C to copy it. Open up an email and then do Control V to paste it in the message part and replace you with I. Like I have received, read, understood the course syllabus for this, for whatever, and all the rest of this. And then down below, you put your name and the date.
And I send it to you.
And send it to me in an email. Go through Canvas. Go through the Canvas email.
Oh, okay. Alrighty.
So
Alright.
let me see. Pull this up and do go inbox, and then you click. See this up here?
Okay.
Boom.
Oh.
And then you select course, and you find this course and 2, and then you select teachers. It doesn't matter if you select all teachers or me because I'm the only teacher. And then you put here the syllabus acknowledgement or syllabus. Doesn't matter what you put for the heading. And then you just put it in here. Okay. So as you see over here, I've got a syllabus acknowledgement form. So all they did was just basically, this person didn't even put a subject in. They just put in the syllabus acknowledgement form. Let me show you what they put in. So they just basically copied and pasted it and put their name in there and the date.
Okay, got
This
you.
was a
Thank
person in my 8 o'clock class. No,
Okay.
my 11 o'clock class.
you. Okay, alrighty. I got you.
Right.
I got it. Thank you. I'll send it
Okay.
to you right now.
All right.
Today.
Take care.